In today's crowded software engineering market, it's really hard to stand out. However, contributing to open source genuinely has the potential to change your life. It can help you land the job of your dreams or even launch your own multi-million-dollar startup. So, here are the 3 reasons to contribute to open source and how you can start today. First, you're going to be solving real problems for real users. I cannot emphasize enough how important this is. Most YouTube influencers are telling you to go and build personal projects. While that's important to do at the start, once you gain some coding skills, small projects like a to-do list or a weather app are not going to land you a job. What employers want to see on a resume is impact. But how can you have impact when you're the only user of your project? To put it simply, you can't. However, if you can solve a bug on a platform used by millions and millions of people, you can easily convey the impact of such an action on your resume. Working on open source is the only way to really replicate the software engineering experience, because most companies are not going to hire you to build an application from A to Z, like your own personal projects, for example. In fact, you will most likely be working on improving an existing project by solving bugs, increasing performance, or even adding features. This is exactly what you're doing in open source, fixing bugs and issues or adding features. It's not something that you can replicate with personal projects because they lack the complexity and the scale of a real project that has real users. This is the reason why employers value open source contributions so much, because it shows that you can deliver value by solving real problems that users have. The second reason why you should contribute to open source is that it greatly improves your coding skills. In my first internship, our team was working on a really cool open source project, and my coding skills improved so much from the start to the end of the internship, to the point where I can say that I became a completely different developer. There are many reasons why this was the case. Firstly, I became a lot more adaptable. I can now quickly jump in any code base and get up to speed. You cannot develop adaptability on personal projects because their scale is just so much smaller. Your project might have a few thousand lines, while an open source project might have millions upon millions of lines of code, so you will never really know the code base by heart. What you will know is how to jump in a huge code base and find what you're looking for. In addition, your code quality will also greatly improve. I mean, in a personal project, you can literally write spaghetti code everywhere. And it doesn't matter because no one will use your project and no one will really look at the code either. This is very different when contributing to open source. You have to make sure that your code is clean, efficient, and understandable, because you're not the only one working on the project. Someone has to be able to quickly open your code, look at it, and understand what it does. Furthermore, most open source projects, including the one I worked on, were using the process of pull requests to make changes to the codebase. It goes something like this. You first fork and clone the original repository, you make your changes locally on your machine, then you open a pull request to say to the maintainers, hey, I want to solve this bug or introduce this feature, here's the code that does it. Now, the maintainers of the project are going to open your pull request and review it. If it's good, your code changes will be merged in the real project, or they might request changes if there are things to fix in your code. This is a great opportunity to learn and to listen to the feedback you receive from the code reviewers, which are often software engineers themselves. They might give you feedback on the naming convention you used, the approach you've taken to solve the problem, or simply the code itself. This is one of the biggest advantages to contributing to open source software. You get free code reviews from real developers, which is a great way to improve your code quality as a beginner. Again, this is something that is very hard to replicate in a personal project. I mean, who are you going to ask to review your code? Someone who has no knowledge of your code base and no understanding of your application? Someone who will quickly skim over the code and say that everything is perfect? You don't want that. You want someone who will look at your code and tell you what's wrong with it, so that you can improve. Of course, code reviews do not only exist in open source projects. Every single company uses them because you always need a second pair of eyes to look at the code changes and to make sure that everything works as expected. Last but not least, contributing to open source project is going to build you a great reputation as a developer who's able to deliver value by solving real problems that real users have. Your reputation is something that is very hard to gain, very easy to lose, which is why it is so important to continuously improve your reputation as the years go by. And there is no better place to do it than in open source. Nowadays, your GitHub is pretty much your resume. Every single issue you report, every single pull request you create, every single review you make, it's all linked to your GitHub account, which is going to follow you for your whole career. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of a hiring manager. Would you rather hire someone with a GitHub full of projects and full of contributions, or someone with an empty GitHub? I think the answer is pretty clear. The cool thing is that one commit, one feature you make can genuinely change your life. For example, let's say you contributed a really cool feature for a popular open source project like React, for example. And suppose one of the users of that feature is an engineer at a very large software company. If he really likes it, he might go check out who made it. And then he'll see your profile, full of projects and really important contributions. So he'll want you on his team. And bam, you got an interview without even applying. Of course, this is a hypothetical scenario and it will not necessarily go like this. But one thing is clear, open source is a great way to build your network. In fact, if you consistently solve important problems for a project, the core maintainers will know your name, and you might be the next name on the list if they're looking for developers. Who knows, you might even become a core maintainer yourself, which is going to get you a lot of eyeballs and build you a great reputation. So, it is clear. Contributing to open source will help you solve real problems, will improve your coding skills, and will build you a great reputation as a developer. But how can you start? Well, you can browse through the Explore page on GitHub and find a project. Or you can even find a project related to your interests. For example, if you enjoy Formula 1, like me, you can contribute to an F1 analysis tool. But the best way to start is to contribute to a project you're already using and loving. If nothing springs to mind, you can always go through the package.json of your personal project and look at all the libraries and all the dependencies you have. Most of them are open source and would really appreciate you helping them. So find their GitHub, read the coding and contribution guidelines, and you're ready to start. I suggest you go through their issues tab on GitHub and filter by beginner or good first issues. Then you can fork and clone the repository, make the changes, push to your fork, and create a pull request. Once your pull request is accepted and fully merged, congratulations, you've just made your first open source contribution. Make sure to smash the like button and subscribe if you're interested in a tutorial on open source or more content related to open source. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.